Exciting times. The PlayStation VR2 is upon us and I for myself couldn't be more excited. If you finally decided to pull the trigger and get into VR, but you have no idea which games are worth your hard-earned money, you have found the perfect video. Here are the 10 best PlayStation VR titles at launch for people completely new to VR. Let's fill in your blank canvas with some VR goodness coming up. Before we get into it, my name is Sebastian and this channel is called MRTV. If you are excited about VR, you should absolutely subscribe now and click on that bell button so that you don't miss anything, because here on MRTV we will keep you updated about everything PSVR2 and VR in general. But now, let's get to our 10 best PSVR launch titles for VR beginners. Starting off our list at number 10 is Demeo, a dungeon-crawling adventure game in the style of Dungeons & Dragons that promises to bring a new level of immersion to the table. Players will lead their own team of heroes into battle against a horde of monsters, and being able to do that in VR together with a bunch of friends is simply mind-blowing. Demeo is a wonderful first step into VR because it goes easy on your stomach but will convey the magic of VR to you. Go for it! So now that you made yourself comfortable in VR, we understand that you really want to shoot some stuff, and boy do we have the perfect game for it. Coming in at number 9 is After the Fall, a post-apocalyptic zombie shooter that takes place in an alternate version of Los Angeles. Players will be able to explore the city, fight off hordes of monsters, and work together to uncover the secrets of this new world. After the Fall is cross-platform, so no matter which VR headset your friends own, you can still team up with them and shoot those ice-cold zombies together. Rhythm games in VR are simply fantastic, and believe me, there is much more out there than just Beat Saber. Next up at number 8 is PSVR launch title Synth Riders, a rhythm game that will have you grooving along some of the best electronic music out there. With VR, players will feel like they are really in the middle of a dance party, and they'll be able to dodge and duck to avoid obstacles as they play. Want to get into the state of flow in VR? Synth Riders is your game. We want to give you a broad selection of genres here to start out in VR, so coming in at number 7 we have Resident Evil Village, the latest installment in the long-running survival horror series. VR is incredibly immersive, and I must tell you that for me personally, horror games are just too immersive. But I understand that most of you out there love this kind of thrill. In Resident Evil Village, your wife and daughter are kidnapped and brought into a village deep within the snowy mountains of Europe. There you must fight against various monsters such as vampires, lycans, wolves, and many more creatures in order to save your family from the evil Mother Miranda. While Resident Evil 8 is not as spooky as Part 7, it will still give you the chills for sure. Now, having already enjoyed so much great VR titles, we believe you are ready to completely live in VR. No better game to spend a couple of weeks in your new VR headset than what is next on the list here at number 6. No Man's Sky, the space exploration game that lets players travel to different planets and discover completely new life forms. In the PSVR 2, players will feel like they are really in the cockpit of their spaceship, making the experience all the more exciting and immersive. Earth is too boring for you? Just escape this planet and explore new worlds with friends. Talking about space, yes, there is a Star Wars game in the PSVR launch lineup, and if you are a Star Wars fan, you should absolutely pick it up. At number 5, we have Star Wars Tales of Galaxy's Edge, a VR game that takes players to the iconic planet of Batuu, where they'll be able to explore, fight off enemies, and interact with familiar characters from the Star Wars universe. Finally, join the fight for the future in VR instead of just watching it on a 2D screen. Coming in at number 4 is Pistol Whip. But wait, one more rhythm game? Didn't we already have that in the list? Yes. But this one is a shooter too. A shooter that will make you feel like John Wick, but John Wick on a crazy music trip. This rhythm-based shooter will have players dodge and shoot their way through an electrifying world of neon lights. You will feel like you're in the middle of the action, making this an unforgettable gaming experience and actually one of our favorite VR games that you should not miss. At number 3, we have Gran Turismo 7, the latest installment in the long-running racing series. With the PSVR2, you can now finally really sit in the driver's seat, making every race an even more immersive and exciting experience. Believe us, racing games in VR are just as good as you imagine, and we are sure that many people will pick up a PSVR2 only to be able to experience Gran Turismo 7 the way it is supposed to be played. You can experience the game in all of the hundreds of cars and on all the racing tracks because GT7 was actually built with VR in mind. At number 2, we have 2 games that you simply cannot miss. Moss 1 and 2 are 2 of the most charming and magical VR games that have ever been created especially for the medium and can only experience in VR. Players will explore a world filled with wonder and adventure that will have you question your decision to only have joined VR now and not much earlier. Players will guide Quill, a small mouse, on its magical journey, solving puzzles and battling enemies along the way. You, the player, are part of this environment, which makes the game surprisingly immersive, even though this is not a game experience from a first-person perspective. And finally, at number 1, we have Horizon: Call of the Mountain, the first AAA production from Sony on the PSVR2. In Horizon: Call of the Mountain, you can actually step into the breathtaking fantasy world of Aloy. This time around though, you are Ryas, the game's protagonist, and being equipped with a hunter bow, you will need to defeat various robotic creatures and, as the title suggests, climb mountains while exploring the breathtaking environment. As you progress in the game, you will unlock additional tools and gears, allowing you to be more efficient in exploration and combat. Experiencing one of the main Sony IPs in VR is a dream come true, and we cannot wait for Sony to tackle their other big names for VR soon. And that concludes our countdown of the 10 best PSVR launch titles for people new to VR. We hope this is a great starting point for you to explore everything that the PSVR2 and VR have to offer. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel now for many more informative PSVR videos in the future. We truly can't wait to see what the future holds for VR gaming on PSVR2. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next episode. Until then, bye bye.